Hello everyone, my name is Charlie Pearmund and I'm here today to do three things. Firstly, to tell you a little bit about a scientific breakthrough in the field of virtual reality. Secondly, to give you three examples of how this technology is affecting people's lives. And thirdly, to ask you to think about how you would use this unique science, perhaps in your day-to-day jobs or perhaps to make our society a little bit better. So what is it? In 1998, scientists conducted the rubber hand experiment. They demonstrated that our brains can be tricked into thinking our rubber hand was our real hand. How? They sat people down at a table, placed a rubber hand alongside the real hand, but hid the real hand behind a barrier. They stroked the rubber hand and real hand at the same time. After a while, an illusion is created in the brain. We feel the stroking and we see the stroking of the rubber hand at the same time. When the scientists then threatened the rubber hand by jamming a fork in it or setting it on fire, the participant would scream and pull their hand away. Mel Slater, our founder, used this principle and extended it to virtual reality. This is the science I want to talk about. It's called embodiment, the feeling that our whole virtual body is our real body. So why is this significant? Well, it means we can change our virtual bodies, which can affect real physiological or behavioral changes. Take racial bias as an example. We all have implicit biases. They are systemic and formed during our upbringing. They determine which strangers we feel comfortable sitting next to on buses. They also cause discrimination and prejudices and things that cause huge problems in society. This needs to be addressed, but how? Through classroom sessions, through e-learning, through role plays with actors. These can make us more aware, but they don't address our implicit bias, our unconscious reactions to people who don't look like us. With virtual embodiment, we can put ourselves in the body of someone from a different race, and we can create the illusion that this is our real body. So, at the University of Barcelona, we did this with 90 white people, placed them in black avatars, and they underwent a virtual Tai Chi course. We used implicit association tests and found that this reduced their implicit racial bias. We tested this 1 week after the VR and saw the same reduction in implicit bias. Before asking you to think about ways which embodiment can be used to benefit society, I want to give you two more use cases based off our published research that demonstrates how powerful this tool is. The first one is the one we did with stroke victims. Now, stroke recovery is a complex process and is determined by the neuroplasticity in our brains. Immediately after a stroke, our damaged brain is relatively flexible and capable of recovery. We talk about brain plasticity. This is the brain's ability to change and adapt and reform connections that allow for verbal, cognitive and physical recovery. In the first 6 months following a stroke, the brain is high in plasticity, and this is where most of the recovery takes place. After a year, the brain is hardened, which makes any further recovery quite difficult. We tested embodiment on patients 3 years after their strokes, so for 5 weeks they put on the VR headsets in place of their real bodies, experience being in bodies that function perfectly. And after the trial period, each participant showed significant improvements across a wide range of tests, including motor functioning, strength and spasticity. One patient went from not being able to use their hand to being able to hold a glass of water and drink. A few years ago, we discovered that perpetrators of domestic abuse typically had less empathy than normal people. Specifically, they are less able to judge emotion in photos of female faces. We used embodiment to place perpetrators in domestic abuse in female bodies and let them experience what it feels to be in a vulnerable or threatening situation at home. After the study, their emotion recognition increased. We also tracked the reoffending rate of those who used the VR versus other offenders in the control group. The results of the study were published in Nature, and we have since been contracted by the government in Catalonia to rehabilitate 600 perpetrators a year outside the prison system. Last month, we also installed this application in 4 more prisons, bringing the total to 6. We want to install in all major European justice systems in the next 5 years. Our final application is based on Solomon's paradox, that we reason more sensibly about someone else's problems than our own. When a friend has an issue, it's easy to know what they should do and give advice. When it's our own issue, we go round and round in circles, falling into similar traps, not taking good decisions. So what if you could leave your body and interact with yourself as if interacting with a friend? We created an application that allows you to do it ran some scientific studies on it, and have since been using it in projects with Google and the World Bank. We now want to give it to people who can really benefit from it, and I think this audience can help reach these types of people. I'll finish by showing you a short conversation I had last week to help you get the idea. Thank you very much.
Hey, I've got this issue in that I need to give a talk on virtual embodiment and on self-conversation, but I'm struggling to think about how I can demonstrate it.
Well, what's complicated about it?
Well, it's relatively easy to describe, but the difficulty is explaining what it feels like to actually be here, to move as I move, and to have my virtual body, look like me, but also have the chance to leave my virtual body and look at myself from perspective.
Well, why don't you just show them this conversation?
That is a fantastic idea.
See you later.